Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, with the theme Chronicle, one of the best events right around the corner, I wanted to talk about Orcust. Orcust was the best deck in the previous festival, and I know a whole bunch of people will be like, oh, but what about Crusadia? Crusadia wasn't the best deck, it was just the one that won the fastest and was the cheapest. It wasn't necessarily the best. In fact, it was pretty bad. If you actually played that event for more than the first week, you realized that deck lost to like everything. This was probably the best deck, and the reason for it was because it actually just handily stomped Crusadia. And that's mostly because it didn't care about getting Kaiju'd. Not nearly as much, because you just played out of the graveyard anyway. So, here is Orcust, and I'm gonna showcase it in regular Yu-Gi-Oh! In regular ranked and stuff like that. So, let's quickly do the card by card and the analysis. If you don't know what Orcust does, it centers around utilizing Dark Machine monsters in order to banish from the grave to generate additional advantage, such as Harp Horror summoning from deck an Orcust monster, Nightmare being able to dump a card to the graveyard to modulate attack, but mostly to send a card to the graveyard, Symbol Skeleton to revive, World Wand to summon from the banish zone, and Girsu to dump cards to the grave. All of these are in what is the word I'm looking for? They all play into getting Ding Girsu or Long Girsu onto the field to send cards your opponent controls without targeting to the grave. Pretty nice. It also can end on things like Orcust Crescendo to negate and banish, which is pretty nice as well. So, all in all, how does this deck function? Starting off with the Brass Bombard, we're playing one of this card. It's pretty nice. Sometimes your hands get a little bit clogged, and being able to send the Brass Bombard to the graveyard, or being able to basically banish it to special summon from the hand, either by getting it into the grave with Link Karibo after normal summoning it, or with Armageddon or Greffer or something like that, means that you can then get a Harp Horror out of your hand or what have you, in order to then go from there into something like a Galatea. Then we're only playing one of that. We have two Symbol Skeleton to revive from the grave. Pretty nice. Not something you necessarily want to see in your hand unless you have additional plays, but still very important, and having two is very, very nice. Then we're playing 3 Harp Horror, the main combo piece, because it banishes to summon any from the deck, any Orcust name from the deck, with no restrictions other than being locked into darks. The being locked into darks doesn't matter too much. Then we have the one, triple Girsu. Girsu is fantastic. On normal or special, send an Orcust or World Legacy card, meaning you can send something like a World Wand as well. Then we have 2 Orcust Nightmare. This card's very nice. You can do similar things to Girsu by banishing it from the grave, and then it modulates attacks, so it can even be activated in a damage step to potentially give your opponent up to an 800 attack point boost. Not really all that great for the attack boost, but more specifically for the effect to send to the grave. Sending something like a Harp Horror or a Symbol Skeleton is very nice. Then we have World Wand, which can revive from the banish zone one of your Orcust monsters. All in all, pretty nice. And this is all in service of Ding Girsu. Ding Girsu can basically send a card to the graveyard on summon, or it can attach a card from the banish zone to itself as material as well on summon. Now, notably, that's not all that great, but with Orchestrated Babel, this means that you can activate all of those effects at quick effect speed, besides the World Wand. But all of the Orcust effects can be activated from the grave at quick effect speed, meaning that you basically have the ability to summon Ding Girsu, which is a non-target send, on the opponent's turn. And then on top of that, you can even end on Orcust Crescendo as well to have an Omni Negate that banishes, as long as you have a Link monster. All of that basically facilitates the full strategy, and it's more or less summon Ding Girsu on the opponent's turn, send a card to the graveyard, and then just survive. Because on the follow-up, you have a lot of various great options. Things like Long Girsu can send to the graveyard without targeting. You can Link summon the Ding Girsu utilizing, Xyz summon utilizing any of your Link monsters, that being Galatea or Long Girsu. You can go into Access Coded Talker. You have insane advantage as well as on the follow-up, because you can recycle all of your cards. These put cards back from the banish zone, both of them. Ding Girsu can do similar things, and Ding Girsu even has a protection effect where if a card would be destroyed, you can detach it, or detach a material from this card, all of which is pretty strong, and just allows you to basically win in the grind game. As for the rest of the cards, we are playing a whole bunch of hand traps, things like Droll, Maxi, Ash Blossom. We're also playing a bunch of other cards to get cards into the graveyard, things like Armageddon Knight. We're playing that guy. We're playing 2 Greffer. Greffer's pretty decent. He's not insane, but he's pretty good. Being able to special summon itself by sending Orcust Nightmare or World Wand or Nessie or something like that to the graveyard to special summon itself, and then also dumping to the graveyard by pitching a card means that you basically get your combo started with this guy alone. On top of that, we're playing a bunch of Dangers. Dangers just are generally helpful. So we're playing 1 Tsuchinoko, 1 Jackalope, basically as search targets for Nessie. Nessie's just better in general. We're also playing 2 Mothman, mostly in here for the draw discard. If it discards itself, you're basically guaranteed to still discard that card out of your hand, like a Harpor or what have you, which is very nice. And then we have the 1 Bigfoot in case we need it, basically. As for the rest of the cards, we are playing the 1 Foolish Burial. We're playing 2 Orchestrated Return, which sends an Orcust or World Legacy monster from hand or face of field to draw 2. Pretty nice. And there are also additional targets to set off of Galatea. We have the 2 triple tacks. We have 1 Babel. We have 2 Called By, and the 1 Orchestrated Crescendo. As for the extra deck, I'm playing a Abyss Dweller. This could be Zeus. This could be a myriad of other things. It's fine. This is kind of a flex spot. I feel like Abyss Dweller's not bad, though. Just being able to, like, summon it is pretty good. But it kind of requires your hand to be really good, since you do get Dark Locked pretty early on. We have Baguska, Plan B, in case you get Max Seed. We have 2 Dingirsu. We have the 1 Link Karibo for the Bombard. We have 1 Nightmare Phoenix. We have 2 Galatea. Also pretty nice, just being able... this card is good. Just requires 2 effect monsters and an Orcust, with an Orcust. And then you can link summon it, or if it's linked, it cannot be destroyed by battle. So if it's like pointing to another monster, or if another monster is pointing to it, then you can target one of your banished machine monsters, shuffle it into the deck, then set an Orcust spell trap directly from your deck. Normally you're setting Babel. Sometimes you'll set Crescendo. Yeah, that's basically it. Crescendo's pretty good, allowing you to negate, but Babel is more so what you're playing off of. So there's that. And then, of course, you can Exi summon Dingirsu off of the Galatea, which is also very nice. We're playing the 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Barricade Board, just to pitch a card out of our hand if we need to. We're playing 1 Dark, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Longirsu, which can shuffle 2 cards back in order to send a linked monster to the graveyard, and then it can't attack for the rest of that turn. We have the 1 Avramax for the IP Masquerena and Galatea, and then we have 1 Axis Code Talker. That's it for the deck. Let's hop into the replays and show you how this deck performed. Alright, so here we are going first, and my opponent let me go first, so that does kind of dictate what we're doing. We're going to start off here with Babel in order to go for the Girsu. This basically just means that, like, hey, if my opponent had, like, a DD Crow or something like that, we can just banish for quick effect and kind of secure ourselves. So, pretty nice to draw the Babel here. Anyway, we're going to then activate the Girsu effect to get 2 tokens. Yeah, it has another effect. It rarely comes up that it's useful. Anyway, we're going to go with the Mothman. Mothman actually hit the Brass Bombard, which is pretty good, and we draw into Nessie. I'm then going to link off into Galatea into our Brass Bombard effect. We're going to activate that, special summon the Symbol Skeleton, and then put back the Brass Bombard in order to set the Crescendo. Pretty decent as of thus far. Now we can go for the Dingirsu, and I actually do, I believe, send... No, I don't send. So we just go for the IP Masquerena, utilizing the little token that we got. And then we can activate our Harp Horror, which we haven't activated thus far, in order to go for Nightmare. We're going to link both of those off into the Galatea, and then we're going to activate our Symbol Skeleton in order to go for another Galatea, so that we have both of them active for a Crescendo. Again, I'm kind of hedging my bets that something like a Lava Golem comes down, or a Kaiju or something like that, and if that is the case, that means that if they go for the Lava Golem, they can either deal with the Crescendo, or they can deal with the IP Masquerena, but they're not able to do both. And if it's a Kaiju, again, they kind of can't deal with both of them, so they kind of have to hit the IP Masquerena, which is fine, but it's not great for me. However, because I have the Orcust Nightmare in the grave, I'm not really too worried, because Dingirsu can come back and deal with whatever it is. So, I'm feeling okay, but it's not great. However, we did cut off, like, evenly matched and stuff like that. Anyway, my opponent is going to go for Prep of Right, and I'm going to just fire off the Galatea, to the which my opponent will maxi, and yeah, that's fine. I really am not expecting to special summon all that much this turn. I feel like they just didn't know what my deck did, and saw me activate something and went, they're going to link summon. It might have been, like, oh, they activated IP Masquerena, but it wasn't. Anyway, we set the orchestrated return and orchestrated return. Anyway, of course it's Makonko. Ohime, activate, search out the Arabesque. I'm like, that's totally fine. And then I believe they activate the triple attack, take, and I'm like, okay, again, because we have 2 Galatea, not really feeling too worried about this. No matter what, we have the field spell online, even if they take one of our Galatea, so of course they're forced to take the IP Masquerena. They then go for the Arabesque, bounce it, activate the effect of the Hare, and I'm like, this seems like a great time to just banish a Hare. Most of the time they're only playing one of this, but also just banishing it and making sure that it's not in grave feels pretty good. So yeah, we're gonna do that. Just banish it, get it out of there. And this kind of forces them to have like a really good hand. Like, anyway. So they go for the Orcust or the Nightmare Phoenix, and I go, oh no! This could actually cause issues, because if they actually go after the Orchestrated Babel, I haven't activated my Orcust and Nightmare. And the reason for this is because, specifically, because it's Makonko, I want to be able to go, here I'm going to target your monster, because this can target any monster, by the way. I'm going to target your monster and give it attack so that I take less damage, while still getting the card into the graveyard that I want. So that's kind of like why I've held it this long. But now if they activate and go for the Phoenix and, you know, take out the Babel, that kind of causes issues, because now I can't go for the Orcust Nightmare into the Symbol Skeleton to bring back the Dingirsu. So that's a bit of an issue for me. But they're stupid and end up going after the return, and I'm like, okay. Anyway, out comes Ohime, because of course they had 2 of them. Why would they not? Anyway, we're going to go for the Nightmare, and as you can see, I'm actually going to target the opponent's monster, and then go for the Symbol Skeleton, and bring out my Dingirsu. Now, it doesn't really matter too much, because I am obviously going to send the Ohime to the graveyard. I do not care about this Nightmare Phoenix, so yeah. They also draw a card, very funny, and you'll see what that card is in a second, because it's hilarious that that's what they end up drawing. But they reattach the Arabesque, but they've already used it, so I'm not really too concerned. And this Dingirsu's not long for this world. Or, I should say, he's not going to stay on the field for very long. Anyway, they send the green dance to the grave, and I draw a second Nessie. So yeah, I fire off the Nessie. Of course, it's going to the graveyard, and I'm just going to search up a monster. I search up the Suchi, or the Jackalope, because it's pretty good. Droll. Kind of sucks. Not really anything I do about that, though. Anyway, so I'm just going to end up normal summoning the Jackalope, and then go into the battle phase, deal as much damage as I can before linking off the field. So we're going to link off here into the Galatea. Galatea, I'm still going to activate it just because I need to shuffle cards back and reset the orchestrated return. Or set the second one, I should say. Now, again, I don't really have too much in the grave, but I'm like, okay, there's not really anything that they can do unless they draw like really, really well. I'm not really too worried about it. Realistically, what I should have done is probably like activate the orchestrated crescendo, because it banishes and grabs a dark machine from deck, but it locks you into dark machines, and I was like, I don't want to be locked, but I wasn't doing anything. I should have done that. Anyway, out comes the Nini, which is interesting. Anyway, they're going to attack. I'm going to shuffle back another card just to shuffle it back. And then they're going to bounce my Galatea. Like, why? Why would we bounce Galatea? Don't know what they're doing. They obviously have never read Babel, but that's fine. I grab the Girsu this time like a smart cookie and actually add it to my hand. I draw triple attack, which is fine. It's whatever. Anyway, we're going to activate the effect of the Girsu, to which my opponent will steal my monster. Sure. Whatever. I send the Harpor, and then I just take their monster, which is very funny. They take mine, and I take theirs. It's comedy. Anyway, Harpor is going to banish. We're going to special summon out the Orcust Nightmare. We're then going to link off into the Galatea, pointing at the Girsu. Then we're going to activate the Galatea in order to return the Harpor. Again, just returning cards more so than anything. Then we're going to boost up our Galatea with the Nightmare, and then more specifically send the World Wand. World Wand is going to bring back the Nightmare to our field, and then we're going to just send it to the graveyard to draw 2, because it's funny. We draw Armageddonite and Nessie, and of course, I hit Nessie. Obviously. Anyway, we're going to grab Bigfoot, and I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'll just Bigfoot here, and I hit the Bigfoot too. Fine, whatever. I'll just pop my own card. I don't need it anyway. Whatever. Just 26 to the face. Not really anything else I can do. But at the very least, this time I have Nightmare in the grave. So now I can go Nightmare, send the Symbol Skeleton, and then the Symbol Skeleton can bring back the Dingir. Wait, that's not supposed to. Not only Did they draw Huli? They also drew Fire Dance. Sometimes your opponent is just better at drawing cards. I don't know. That's an insane set of 2 draws that they could... yeah, anyway, that's fine. Again, not really too concerned. They can't kill me. That set card doesn't really matter too much. I mean, it kind of does. But we can obviously go Long Girsu if they activate the field spell, or the trap card. Cool, I make Dingirsu, and then I win the game. Anyway, so I'm going to shuffle back 2, and away goes the Makanko card, and I'm like, oh, cool, so now I just have lethal. Because all I have to do is link summon into the... Yep. I just link summon, or not link summon, Xyz summon into the Dingirsu, and that's lethal on field, so I don't even have to do anything else. Good game. Also, ew, annoying sound. Alright, once again, we are going first, but this game is a bit funny, and you'll see why in a second. I'm going to start off here with the Nessie. Of course they have the Maxi, but it gets even funnier. Nessie, to the grave you go. Of course. I even hit the same Nessie. It's very funny. Nessie is going to search out the Mothman. I'm like, okay, Mothman at the very least is going to get me, like a level 4, so I could do that. And, you know, I have the Droll and Lock Bird. At the very least, I can, like, Droll and Lock my opponent. And then... Dangers are so bad in Master Duel. I don't know what it is. Anyway, not really that big of a deal. We still get the Harp Horror, and we actually see what they're on, so this is actually very good for me. So I'm going to activate the Droll and Lockbird, and I'm like, that's totally fine. We get the Harp Horror into the graveyard, and Droll is particularly not that big of a deal for me, mostly because everything in the deck, besides like the Dangers, either sends to the grave or special summons. They're not actually cards that are adding to the hand, which is very, very nice. So out comes the Girsu. Girsu effect is going to activate, to the which my opponent will Ash. I'm like, okay, that's totally fine. That's not really that big of a deal, because again, we can just grab the token. It's the only card on the field, so yep, great, fantastic. We get another token. And we have a normal summon, so I'm going to normal summon. I actually end up normal summoning the Symbol Skeleton. I think this is a mistake. I should have just normal summoned the Greffer and then pitched the Symbol Skeleton to the grave. Not really that big of a deal. Anyway, we go for the Galatea here. We're going to shuffle back the card, go for the Babel here, activate the Babel effect, and then go for, activate Babel, then go for the Dingirsu. I actually get rid of the token, because, I don't know. I don't know why I did that, but it's not really that big of a deal. And then we just go for the IP Masquerena with the Symbol Skeleton in grave. So, not terrible, but like it definitely could have been better. But it is IP Masquerena, which is pretty nice. To the which my opponent will immediately drop Fallen Valdez. Yeah, okay, no, that's fine. Out comes Mirror Jade and battle. Seeing them go to battle, I'm like, okay, yeah, and then they set a card. If that's called by, that's really frustrating. If it's like Banishment or Branded in red, it's even worse. So, triple attack makes this a lot cleaner, though. I'm going to immediately normal summon the Greffer, to which my opponent will just not allow it to activate, which is honestly probably the correct play, but it's still not great. Anyway, we go for the Girsu here. We send it to the graveyard, the Harp Horror, and then I get to triple attack take. Yeah, feels pretty good. Anyway, we are then going to go for the Harp Horror again, and special summon it to the field, to the which my opponent will pitch a Super Poly to Super Poly our field, which is, a choice, I guess? Anyway, out comes Starving Venom. This doesn't do anything, because it specifically has to be destroyed by card effects, which is very funny. Anyway, I'm going to Nessie to pitch Nessie so that we can just grab up the Tsuchinoko, which is going to special summon itself when it pitches itself to the graveyard, off of its own effect. Anyway, it's just a body. This is why we're playing so many Nessies, just to do stuff like this. Get a body on the field. Anyway, Galatea, shuffle back a card, set the Crescendo, and then activate the Orcust Nightmare, which is now in grave, in order to send World Wand. World Wand is then going to bring back from the Banish Zone that same Orcust Nightmare. We are then going to link off it into the Long Girsu, which is pretty cool, because now we can send it to the graveyard by shuffling back 2 of our monsters, while we still have Crescendo. So, we have Crescendo for the inevitable Albolenitis Search Branded Fusion, but we also in grave, I believe we have Nightmare with Babel still active, so we can still go for that. My opponent is then going to activate the Branded Fusion, to the which I will Crescendo, banishing it and negating it, and then they will disconnect. Yeah, they scooped. Alright, here we are, once again, going first. A lot of people just, like, allowed me to go first, which was kind of interesting, but not this time. Anyway, we're gonna normal summon the Dark Grepher and send to the graveyard our Heart Pourer, and then send as well the Nightmare. Now, notably, what's great about Dark Grepher is it pitches from your hand for cost, which means if you end up having something like a, an Orcust of some kind in your hand, you could just like freely get that out of your hands, and even if they Ash or Imperm or something like that, it's still in the grave, which is great. Anyway, so yeah, we summon the Girsu. Girsu sends Symbol Skeleton, and then link off into Galatea. Galatea is then going to shuffle back the Orcust in order to grab Babel here. We're going to activate the Babel. We are then going to activate the Nightmare. Nightmare is going to activate its effect, sending the World Wand. World Wand is going to then activate in order to bring back the Nightmare. Pretty nice thus far. We are going to then go into Dingirsu. Dingirsu is going to attach the World Wand, which is then going to put it back into rotation for the following turn. We then go into the IP Masquerena, activate the Symbol Skeleton so that we can attach, or we can summon out the Galatea, since again we already have the Orcust Nightmare. That seems pretty good. Also, this kind of telegraphs that this is the counter trap, which could make my opponent play worse. So there's that, but it is called by, which is fine. Anyway, my opponent is going to start off with Forbidden Droplet, pitching to the grave the what is this guy? The Phantom Knight of Ragged Gloves. Now, hindsight, I should have immediately called by this. I don't know what I would hold called by for. They very clearly want this in the grave. I think realistically, just immediately get it out of the grave. Yeah, it may not be the best thing to call by, but I still think it's the best option. They go for the Rite of Aramsir, putting the adventure token in defense position. I'm not entirely sure why, but okay. Anyway, they grab up the Water Enchantress here. Again, weird choices, but I get it. It's a 3 that they can special summon to their field, and like it kind of makes sense because again, here they're going to pitch the Wings. Yeah, I should have called by it earlier. Anyway, they're going to special summon out the Water Enchantress, then they're going to activate the Dracoback. Dracoback is going to activate its effect, targeting the called by. I'm going to fire the called by. I could have just let it go back to hand, but I mean, I figured I'd rather do this. Anyway, my opponent is going to bring out Wing, or off of Wing, the Ragged Gloves. I'm like, okay, yeah, again, there's not really a whole lot that I can do. And then they go for the Cherubini, and I go for the Nightmare. Activate the Nightmare. We are going to send the Symbol Skeleton. Symbol Skeleton is then going to summon out the Dingirsu. So yeah, Cherubini is just not going to happen. They get way too much advantage if they end up actually having Cherubini, so I just send it to the graveyard immediately before they have a chance to activate. Then they just set a card and pass, and I'm like, huh? Now, here's the thing. I've looked at this deck. I do not know what that last card could possibly be. They haven't normaled, so I do not know what that last card could be, and I'm so confused as to why they went for the Water Enchantress here as opposed to the Griffin, which they're playing. Now I know it's a 2 or it's a 3, which means that they can go Cherubini. Whatever this card in hand is, either it is a way to get a 3 onto their field, or it's like another trap card that they just chose not to set or activate or anything like that. So it's kind of weird. It's just, there's nothing really that makes sense about the plays that they make. So I'm a bit confused. Again, Griffin feels like it just would have been a better option instead of trying to do this whole Cherubini stuff, but whatever. Anyway, I set Crescendo off of the Galatea, and then we activate it again in order to set the return. Anyway, World Wand is going to activate. We're going to then special summon out the Symbol Skeleton, and then link off all of those into Access Code Talker. Now, most likely this is not Judgment, but if it was, it would have been very funny. Of course, it's the Fog Blade. I'm just going to banish that. Again, it just seems like the best option for me. Being able to banish this is again, pretty nice. And it keeps my Access Code Talker big, which is, again, pretty nice. So I'm going to go for the Access Code Talker. We're going to activate in order to deal with the token, and then we are going to go for the Symbol Skeleton, bring back the Dingirsu. Now, I don't even have to deal with the Fateful Adventure. I just gonna attach the Symbol Skeleton back to the Dingirsu, and this is lethal. So, good game, I guess? I don't know. This is kind of weird. Alright, we're back with the deck, and honestly, I don't know if this is necessarily the best version of the deck. It's probably some 60-card variant with, like, I don't know, just a myriad of other chaos stuff. But all in all, I do like the 40-card list some more. Yes, it's not necessarily as high power level, but I'm much more into, like, having consistency. Opening bricks is never fun. And this deck just doesn't do that very often. Sure, it's not as high of a power level of an end board. You're not ending on, like, infinite negates or something like that. But it's still pretty decent. Anyway, I don't know. Orcust has always been fun. I've really enjoyed it. And with how cheap it is as well. I mean, what is it? 3, 4, 5 URs? That's it? Like, you don't need Avermax. You kind of need IP Masquerena. You don't really need Link Karibo. You don't really have to play the Brass Bombard. I don't think it came up once in the game. No, it came up once. But, like, obviously, you don't really need that many URs, right? Outside of, like, generic cards, right? Again, IP Masquerena, Unicorn, Access Code Talker, stuff like that. So, it's a very cheap deck as well. So, even if you are not expecting to play it very often, it's still, like, very easy to make. So there's that. Also, Theme Chronicle is very fun, and this is definitely a deck that you could play in the Theme Chronicle and have a lot of fun with. So there you go. That's going to be it for this episode. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, I like us very much, so appreciate it. And if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh!, then just be sure to subscribe. And we thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.